Ribol Kak Doeta, Ribol Ruwat Mawan.
Ribol.
Semoga sehat selalu.
Sehat juga, biar sehat juga.
Salam sama Bapak.
Siap.
Bapak.
Nah. Ribol Prabu Dawa.
Ada Prabu Dawa ya.
Ribol. Mendapat pranam Prabuji. Masih mood Prabu, masih mood.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Mataji.
Ribol.
Wow.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Abhijit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, can you hear me?
So
Yeah.
I can make you the host now?
Yes.
Okay. So Dhamma Prabhu, I made you the host. Could you now make me the a co-host?
Yeah,
Just me.
my opponent is in Indonesia, yeah?
Huh?
Yes.
Thank you.
You are
Prabhu.
now co-host, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Maharaj. Let me tell you, Maharaj, the idea.
Please make sure that Maharaj in English channel also, so that he can communicate with our interpreters.
Okay.
Thank you, Abhijit Prabhu.
You just have to make your language as English. Interpretation language.
Interpretation, no?
It's all language, yes.
English.
English.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Balakrishna Prabhu bisa dicoba nggak komunikasi dengan Maharaj?
So everyone's here, we can begin.
Yeah. Can you hear Balakrishna
Om
Prabhu?
Jnanatimurandasya Gyananjana Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome to the fourth class on Nectar of Instruction for the Bhakti Sastri course. In the last class, we were studying the 6 different items which are favorable and attitudes, favorable activities and attitudes, and the unfavorable activities and attitudes. So we spoke about these things. We didn't fully complete everything. We were discussing tat karma pravartanat, right? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes two different divisions of this activity. Who remembers what's the meaning tat karma pravartanat? Someone can tell me the meaning? Please give me the name. Shilpa Sham Maharaji can tell us.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Tat karma pravartanat means acting according to the regulative principles of hearing, chanting, remembering Krishna. And here in the purport, Prabhupada mentions also abstaining from intoxication, meat eating, gambling, and chanting chanting Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Srila Prabhupada describes one part is yam and the other part is niyam. Just like in Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga, there are 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, and the first one is yam and then niyam. Yam means the prohibitions, the things which you have to give up, right? And then niyam is the things which we have to do. So the yam part, first part, give up all the bad habits, give up the intoxication, the gambling, the meat eating, and the illicit sex. These have to be given up. And then what has to be taken up? What do we have to do? Right? We have to engage in the practice of the principles of Bhakti Yoga, the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. Regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga is not just don't eat meat, fish, and eggs, don't take intoxication, don't gamble, don't do illicit sex. Regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga are chanting the Mahamantra every day, a fixed number of rounds, then studying Srimad Bhagavatam, worshipping the deity, worshipping Tulsi, offering water and bowing down to Tulsi, these kind of things, cooking food, offering food to the deity. These are all regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. So two parts to it, the yam and the niyam. The things which we give up and the things which we have to do, we have to take up. We have to take up regularly, hearing, chanting, worshipping, like that. And then remembrance of Krishna will become natural. Is that clear? Is there some questions people have? Their hands up? Or now everybody lowered their hands. Okay. So tat karma pravartanat, practicing the regulative principles like hearing and chanting. Then next, what's the next item? Sangatyagat. Sangatyagat. Sangatyagat, giving up association of people who are not favorable to Krishna consciousness. Right? Sangatyagat. We have to, who are these kind of people? Somebody like to tell us what kind of people are unfavorable to Krishna consciousness? Yes, Gita Indulekha Mataji will tell us. An enthusiastic devotee. Gita.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. Maharaj, the materialistic imperial impersonalists and all the that yogi, other jnanis, karmis, and atheists, such people are not favorable to Krishna consciousness. So we should not associate with them. Asatsang Tyat A Vaishnav Achar, Stri Sang a Sadhu, Krishna Bhakt are one who's not a devotee of Krishna and who are much attraction towards the opposite sex, like females. We should not associate with them. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said.
Okay, very good. Yes, right. We give up the association of the materialistic people who have no interest to hear about Krishna. Right, thank you. Very nice. And then, finally, Satovrite. Who would like to tell us the meaning of this Satovrite? Someone? Got their, yes, Rohit Singha. Prabhu, Rohit Singha. Oh, is it Rohit? Ratin Singha.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dhanavad Pranam. So, Satovrite means that following the footsteps of our previous acharyas, like Rupa Goswami and other Goswamis, and down the line, what Prabhupada has given us through ISKCON, we have to follow those rules and regulations.
Okay. So how are you going to do that? Follow in the footsteps. What do you mean? You have to go and live like Rupa Goswami in Vrindavan? You have to become a Babaji?
No, Maharaj. So, in whatever sphere we are having, we are living, we have to be just 24-hour engaged in Krishna's service by any means.
Okay. Anybody else would like to contribute to this? Let me see. Mr. Rona Agarwal, is it? What's the name? Rona Agarwal Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dhanavad Pranam. Maharaj, it means following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, like it's been said, we should follow our previous acharyas like Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada he has given. Or we can do it in a way of associating in their Vani association, whatever instruction Prabhupada has given in the form of his books and his lectures and all. If we follow those things, then we can really walk in the path that he wants us, the way he wants to follow. It's been also said, Mahajana Jaina Gathaya Pantha. We need to walk in the footsteps like prescribed by the scriptures and followed by our acharyas to attain to the transcendental platform.
Would you like to specify some particular activities we could do following in the footsteps?
We can chant 16 rounds daily and follow 4 equity principles.
Well, yes, that's the minimum. That's the bottom of the ladder.
And also we can preach the Krishna consciousness to others as well.
Okay, I'll give you a little more to understand that particularly the implication is that our behavior should be like them. That not that we can just simply blindly follow their standards of devotional service, but at least we should try to behave properly as devotees. We should show the good qualities of a devotee. Because one who is engaged in devotional service, he should naturally develop all good qualities. That is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a verse there which describes that one who is a devotee will naturally develop all the good qualities. So it means cleanliness, truthfulness, freedom from the modes of passion and ignorance. And we will certainly like to do things like mark our body with tilak and be neat and clean and these different activities, these kind of things. This should be the behavior. This is following in the footsteps, keeping ourselves in a good condition, morally and socially. Is it understood?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much for the clear understanding.
All right. So are there any questions about these 6 items which are favorable and unfavorable? Anyone like to ask anything before we move on? Girit Hari Prabhu has a question.
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj. So here I found that in the second verse of the Upadeshamrita and also in the third, so both mentioning specifically about Sangha, Maharaj. So how important is this Sangha? And of course it's very important, but can Maharaj kindly explain to us more about, that's why how is it mentioned 2 times also?
Yes, right. You're observant. It's mentioned that both in that we should give up the association of bad devotees, and it's mentioned we should take the association of devotees. So yes, Prabhupada said that association is 98% of our Krishna consciousness. So it's really the major part of our Krishna consciousness, that we will reflect the quality of the people we associate with. And we like to develop our Krishna consciousness, and it will come by proper association. When we associate with other devotees, we will also be inspired to develop the qualities of the devotees. So we want to be a little conscious, we want to be conscious and careful about how we select. And we'll be talking, Rupa Goswami will go on to talk about that, about how, recognizing different devotees and how to relate to the different levels of devotees. So that's going to come up. We're going to talk about the different levels of devotees and how we have to reciprocate, how we have to deal with and associate with the different devotees according to the level of advancement. All right. Yeah, some other questions there?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Who is this? Is this Ananta Vijaydas? Is a question?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam, Maharaj. So I want to ask that Is there any relation between this 6 item, which is favorable to Bhakti, and Sat Anga Saranagati, which is there in Song of Bhakti Vinod Thakur? How is the relationship? Sat Anga Saranagati.
Oh. Well, of course, Saranagati, surrender, that we want to surrender to Krishna. So how do these items relate to surrender? It's all related to surrender. The cultivation of these six activities, 6 qualities which are mentioned, are all part of the surrendering process. That we have to cultivate these kind of qualities, right? The enthusiasm, patience, confidence. Yeah, we need these things. These are very important. Otherwise, how can we surrender? How can we surrender if we're not enthusiastic, if we're not patient and confident? They're all very important in our surrender to Krishna. And we have to hear and chant as well. That takes also surrender to engage in the activities of devotion, following the footsteps. Yeah, we cannot really separate these qualities from surrender, but they're all directly related to the process of surrender. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, as you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. So as we surrender to Krishna, will be understood by how we cultivate these qualities. These 6 qualities which Rupa Goswami has described, they're all conducive to surrender. All 6 of them. They're very helpful for our surrender to Krishna. And without these qualities, then we won't be able to surrender to Krishna. So these qualities are very essential. Rupa Goswami is describing, therefore, how we can actually begin to develop our bhakti in the beginning. Very important that we have to do these things. We cannot think. Of course, surrender goes on continually, and the same way as we go on in Krishna consciousness, we have to keep these qualities: enthusiasm, patience, confidence, chanting, association, following the footsteps, cultivating the Vaishnava qualities. It has to go. These activities all have to go on at the same time, simultaneously. We want to continue our devotional service. As we continue our devotional service, we develop more and more these qualities. So it's all based on, all centered around surrender. We cannot say anything separate from surrendering process. These activities these 6 activities which are favorable, they're favorable in the sense that they help us, they facilitate our surrender to Krishna. Right? Is it clear?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. All right. Now, what about, we have quite a few, are these all questions which people have? Okay. Adi Raj Prabhu?
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I wanted to ask, sometimes because of our job, we have to mix or associate with mundane, materialistic people, sometimes because of our family also. How should we conduct ourselves in these types of position?
Well, generally we don't want to make these kind of situations very intimate, because the people you're associating with are not in the devotional path. and they're not practicing regulative principles. So you have to associate with them due to your work, but you don't have to develop intimacy in these exchanges with them. Externally, you have to show some friendship, you have to show some, but internally, you should be thinking that I just want to get this finished with so I can go on with my devotional service. So it's like that. Externally, you have to put up that due to your karma, due to some arrangement of Lord Krishna, you're in this situation that you have a job or you're working, you're with people who are not devotees. So you have to tolerate it, you have to go on with this because you have to maintain yourself, you need a job, but don't get intimate with these people. You don't want to be eating food with them. You don't want to be too much socializing with them. Socialize with them as little as possible because they're not in the devotional path. But externally, you have to put on the show. Yes, my dear friend, wonderful, working with people, you have to have a good relationship. Yes, we've got to work harder. Yes, we've got to make more money for the company. But internally, you should be thinking, oh, when will this be over with and I can go back to read Srimad Bhagavatam? I like that.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. All right, we'll just hear a few more questions. Dina Vatsala Prabhu. Dina Vatsala Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Have you unmuted yourself? I can't hear.
Thank you, Maharaj. Terima kasih, Prabhu. Saya ada pertanyaan. Apa namanya? Ini kan dijelaskan di sloka 2, yaitu tentang prajalpa. Ya, bahkan di kalangan internal atau di poti, kalangan penyembah, kita sering melakukan prajalpa tentang bergosip, habis itu tentang diskusi tentang bola dan sebagainya. Secara tidak sadar kita melakukan ini. Dan ini secara tidak sadar terus kita lakukan. Bagaimana caranya kita agar kita bisa mengenali prajalpa yang seperti itu.
Well, if you see people talking Prajapa, you want to run away. You want to get away from that. Just take shelter of the holy name. Other people are not talking about Krishna. Don't get involved. Don't be drawn into that. Don't be drawn into their situation. Leave them. If they're talking Prajapa, that's their foolishness. But you don't want to get caught in that. You want to take shelter of the holy name of Krishna. You want to take shelter of thinking of Krishna. Bring your mind to Krishna. And you should feel sorry for these people. But unless you're an authority figure, unless you have an authority there in the center among the devotees, you don't want to go giving them instruction. Rather, you just want to show an example. The better way to instruct people is to teach by your own example. If you yourself don't talk Prajalpa, and if you yourself are always thinking of Krishna and chanting the holy name of Krishna and talking about Krishna, that's the best way to teach others. That's the best instruction you can give to others. So, they're talking Prajalpa, you just go away, you find some other place where you can go and chant without being disturbed by their Prajalpa. Leave them. That's their Maya. They're in Maya, it doesn't mean you have to get involved. All right? Is it clear?
Yeah.
You want to ask more?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. All right. So we have some more, couple more questions. Archana Bhakti Radha Mataji has a question.
Hare Krishna, Pranam Maharaj. Maharaj, I wanted to ask, in the text, in the book, it said, endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called utsaha or enthusiasm. I wanted to understand this, Maharaj. I was not able to understand. How does one, endeavoring with intelligence in Krishna consciousness? Can you a little bit elaborate on it, Maharaj? Thank you so much.
Yes, that's Prabhupada's definition of enthusiasm. Very nice definition, right? Makes us think.
Yes.
So, sometimes we think, we have the idea that enthusiasm just means, run off and do something with a lot of energy and don't really think about what we're doing. Sometimes we don't think about the consequences, just like sometimes in the early years of our movement, devotees would be very enthusiastic to distribute books, and they go to great extremes in order to distribute books and to collect donations from people. So that was an enthusiasm, but often their enthusiasm would create the bad impression on people. So the point is, Prabhupada is saying endeavor, yes, endeavor, but with intelligence. And so we have to be thoughtful. It takes a little intelligence to understand. We have to be careful. Are we going to give people a bad impression or a good impression? We have to think carefully about how we deal with people and how we're behaving when we're doing things. You want to put on a festival, you want to do it in a manner which will create the nice mood, which will give friendly relationships and bring the support of the public. If you simply make enemies, then it's not good, right? Sometimes we will do things and we just make enemies. People just end up disliking us. And they simply see us in a bad way. They see us as some, cult or some beggars. They think we're poor, that we don't have any money, therefore we're out begging every day. But we have to be a little intelligent and think carefully about how we can best direct our energy in the service of Krishna. So intelligence is a very important function. It's seated next to the soul, right? The mind is higher than the senses, and intelligence is higher than the mind. And intelligence is seated next to the soul. So, we have to get that in the direction also from the soul, how to use intelligence, how to work nicely in the service of Krishna to produce a good Krishna conscious result, to help people have a good opinion of the devotees and of the Krishna consciousness movement. Important. Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
And then there's one question. Ratan Singha has a question, Prabhu.
Yes, Maharaj. So my question was that during the discussion of third verse of Nectar of Instruction, you told about Avashya Rakshive Krishna. And also in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna confirms that Kaunti apratijani hi name bhaktya pranashati. So Maharaj, I wanted to know that what kind of protection is this? Is it our protection of the spiritual advancement, our spiritual consciousness, or is it material also? Because sometimes in the devotee community, this is slightly misunderstood, and people think that okay, I have become devotee and Krishna will maintain all my things. So how to understand this?
Well, that's up to Krishna, how he decides to give protection. Generally, it's more in relation to our spiritual progress, that we won't fall away from, we won't forget Krishna. that our bhakti cannot be lost. We see Prahlad Maharaj, of course, he was protected by Krishna because he was always remembering Krishna, so no danger could come to him. And the Lord gave a promise that the descendants of Prahlad would also be protected, that they wouldn't be harmed, they wouldn't be killed. So it happened that Banasura was born in the family of Prahlad Maharaj. So Bana had, 1,000 arms. And Lord Krishna saw he was very proud. And he cut off his arms, left him with 4 arms. But because he was from Prahlad's family, he didn't kill him. But he took away his pride, because he was very proud having 1,000 arms. So Lord Krishna reduced his pride, but didn't kill him. So Lord Krishna knows himself what is proper. We cannot think that because I'm a devotee of Krishna, that I won't get ill, I won't die, I won't get disease, I won't die. We can't think like that. That's foolish. Just like if there's a tiger in the forest, you can't think because I'm a devotee of Krishna and Krishna's in the heart of the tiger, Krishna won't let the tiger eat me. You can't, that's madness to think like that. But sometimes devotees are so foolish, they think like that. They have that kind of foolishness. That Krishna will protect me. Yeah, Krishna can protect, but mainly he's protecting our bhakti, that our bhakti is never lost. And we see like Chitraketu was cursed by Lord Shiva's wife Parvati. He was cursed to become a demon, Vritasura. But even in the body of a demon, Vritasura, he never lost his bhakti. His devotion was still there. He kept his bhakti. So generally, the Lord is protecting our bhakti. And sometimes he may also protect the devotee. We don't know. Certainly, Maharaj Ambarish was protected from Durvasa Muni. So it's up to the Lord. He knows. He will decide in what way he should facilitate our path back to Godhead. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, but we'll just have one more question from Premadan Prabhu. Last
Yes.
question. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you. So I have one question, Maharaj. Here is mentioning that those who are following this principle will assure complete success in pure devotional service. So I want to know when this actually the purity will take place, Maharaj. So can we say that after following this principle, immediately someone or somebody devotees become pure like that, or we have to wait for some time? How is this process will means the purity will take place, Maharaj? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Well, it may take a moment. It may take some time. It may take even maybe the whole life. But we have to understand it depends on our own self. How much are we able to give ourselves to Krishna consciousness? How much are we able to surrender, as we said? It's not that, Krishna will just do everything for us immediately, but it will depend on us. As we surrender, Krishna rewards accordingly. So if we fully surrender to Krishna and take full shelter of Krishna consciousness, completely giving up all of our attachments and all of our plans for enjoying the material world, then Krishna can arrange rapid advancement. But it will depend on us, how much we're willing to reciprocate, how much we're willing to give ourselves up to Krishna. right? It's a reciprocation between Krishna and the devotee. It's not just up to the devotee, but it's also up to Krishna. Krishna will decide. Krishna may decide, you know, this devotee is not ready. No, I want this. Krishna may want this devotee may think devotee needs more time. Let him wait. Let's see how serious he is. Is he really genuine? You know, we do see sometimes devotees try to advance too fast. We talk about premature transcendence. You know, we think I'm completely free of all material thoughts and desires, and we give up everything. And then in a few months later, you know, we're back in the material world. You know, what happened? Well, I don't know. Well, I'll become Krishna conscious later. You know, you know, sometimes. So this kind of thing, up and down like that. So Krishna is careful about giving pure devotion. He rarely gives pure devotion. Rarely. Pure devotees are more merciful than Krishna. The pure devotees may give. They give the chance to someone to become a pure devotee. But not everyone is able to take advantage of the opportunity given to them. So we have to be cautious. We have to know what we have to know what we're capable of, how much we're able to handle. Okay, Prabhu, thank you very much for your question.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Maharaj,
Right. Yes.
actually, there have been a couple of questions on the chat for a while now. I think I don't know if you got a chance to see the chat.
Really? No, they're still there now.
Yes,
they're
Maharaj.
still on the chat.
Yeah, the questions are still on the chat. I think they sent it around half an hour back. Should I read them out to you?
Yeah, can you read one out?
Yeah, okay. So one question is to the question of association, there is a concept of dharma dwaji. Can you explain more, please?
Dharma dwaji. What's this? I'm sorry, I'm not so familiar with this term, dharma dwaji. Would you like to, the person who put the question can explain to me what he means, what he's referring to?
I think he's saying it's someone who dresses like a devotee but is materialistic.
Okay. So what does he want to know?
So to the question of association, I think he's asking who dresses like a devotee. What about associating with people who are dressing like a devotee but are materialistic, actually?
So we'll look at this when we come to association with devotees. That's more connected. You know, if you know someone is just simply dressing like a devotee but is actually materialistic, then it's not very good association. Rather, we can respect them in the mind, and we can also offer respect to them. You know, they look like a devotee. Okay, they dress like a devotee. Maybe they don't behave like devotees. Maybe they're not chanting. They have some bad habits. So we show some respect to them, but at the same time, we don't want to associate with them like that. Okay. And the other question on the chat?
And the other question was, I think you were talking about how, you know, at a workplace, we sometimes have to put up a face saying that, you know, we are enthusiastic about working and things like that, but in actuality, we are eager to actually progress in Krishna consciousness. One person is saying, is that not duplicity, Maharaj? You know, outside we're putting up a face that we want to progress materially in front of our work colleagues and things like that. So I think that's what the person is referring to.
Are we being duplicitous? No.
Yes, Maharaj.
No, I would say we're simply being practical. That you live in the material world You have to live in the material world. You have to maintain a job. And so externally, we have to talk like that. We have to associate with materialistic people. We don't want to be unfriendly with them. We don't want to make enemies with them. So externally, at least we're careful not to get too much intimacy with them. It's not being duplicitous. It's just simply practical. You're doing business. You're working in a job. It's like business. When you do business, you have to do these kind of things. Just like in business, the man will say, "Oh, for you, I'm not making any profit. I'm giving you the best price." You have to talk like that. You're doing business. It's the same way you work in a job. You have to do these kind of things. Yeah, you have to be a little bit duplicitous because it's material world and people are duplicitous. But we're duplicitous for a good cause, so that we can be Krishna conscious, to protect our Krishna consciousness. It's not a fault. Rather, it's an attribute of a devotee, that the devotee is expert, that they can adjust to different situations. Right? We read about Raghunath Das. You can read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Raghunath Das Goswami, how he dealt with the Muslims. That at one point there was a problem for his uncle. Some big money had been corrupted. But Raghunath Das was so expert, he could solve the problems because he knew the art of diplomacy. So we have to use these things in the service of Krishna. All right?
Yes, I think that was. I don't see the reply of the person on the chat. So yeah.
You want to be so honest. You want to show everybody you're a devotee. You go out there and you just tell them about Krishna. You won't keep your job very long. You've got a job. You have to do the job. You have to do what's required. So you have to adjust everything, time, place, and circumstances. Because of your karma, you have to work. You have a job. And the job you've got is given to you. Somehow you have to do it. You have to maintain it. So you have to show some kind of enthusiasm for the job and like that. But in your heart, we should always be thinking about Krishna and desiring that, oh, soon I can go home and do my puja and chant Hare Krishna. It's not unnatural. The ordinary man, materialistic people, they're also thinking about going home, being with their family. So we're thinking going home, being with Krishna. No difference from anybody else.
Thank you, Maharaj.
All right?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead. We want to go on to text number 4 this evening. Wait, I'll share the screen here. Okay. What do I do? Share screen. Huh? What did I, then I hit this?
Oh, sorry, they have to make you host. So Dhamma Prabhu, can you make Maharaj our co-host so he can share his screen?
Yes, Prabhuji. Done.
Okay, now what?
Maharaj, you can share your screen right now.
Keep up the dot, the more on the bottom right. Share screen. A little bit down, further up, yeah. And then you do the desktop. Now your entire desktop share it.
Okay. To open the, we're on text number.
Putra saya.
It's not being shared?
It is being shared. I can see it. And then we'll see once you start the slides.
Okay. Where's my PPT?
Lesson 4, is it the first one?
What happened to my PPT? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, here it is. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Maharaj, you can make it full screen, Maharaj. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I'm trying. There's so many things on my screen. I'm trying to take them out so I can open the PowerPoint. Okay, now you can see it?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay, lesson 3. 6 kinds of loving exchanges. Upadeshamrita text 4. Revision. We've tried to explain the 6 favorable and unfavorable attitudes and activities as in text 2 and 3. I hope they're clear to you. We also spoke about Prabhupada's mood in adjusting religious principles in relation to Niyam Agraha and listed examples of such adjustments. Do you remember some of these adjustments which Prabhupada made? Someone can give an example?
Cross the sea, cross ocean.
Maharaj, Prabhupada crossed the sea to preach. He went to the Western country to preach.
Okay, usually sannyasis won't cross the sea, but Prabhupada crossed the ocean, yes? Someone else give another example?
Women, brahmachari ashram?
Yes, the brahmachari is not supposed to see women, but we have the brahmacharini ashram. So you have men and women working together in Krishna consciousness. Yes?
Hare Krishna
And
Maharaj.
Guru.
Yes, next one.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Usually, previous time, Brahmacharya not allowing stay in the temple. But now, Prabhupada allowing even as a pujari. Thank you, Maharaj.
No, we had that one. Women as pujaris. Huh? Okay. Women also can do puja, yes. All right. Women also on the altar worshipping the deity. Anything else?
Accepting the
Yes,
title
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
One
Hare
person.
Krishna Maharaj.
Who? Maharani Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, he reduced the number of rounds for because the Western devotees couldn't chant 64 rounds per day to 16.
Yes, very nice. Thank you very much. Very good one. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Really? Let's hear the others. Who? Priya Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada accepted Guru Puja in front of the deities.
Okay, yes, good. Ramesh Sharma Prabhu. Ramesh Sharma.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My answer has given already, Maharaj.
Oh, okay. Someone else?
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Prabhupada making his disciple Vivaha Yagya.
Okay, he did the marriage ceremony for some disciples. Although he's a sannyasi, usually sannyasis won't take part in the marriage yagya, but Srila Prabhupada arranged the marriage and performed the marriage yagya for them. Okay.
Yes, that I mean, Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.
Ganga Prasad.
Maharaj, my 2 points are already mentioned: accepting worship before the altar and officiating Vivaha Puja for the disciples. Those are the 2 points I wanted to mention.
All right. Archana Bhakti Radha Mataji has a point.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Actually, Prabhupada accept the title Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada, and his god brothers were not at all happy about the whole thing. They were astonished how he could use that title, which was actually for his spiritual master.
Right. Okay. Yes. Thank you. And
Thank
what
you,
is
Maharaj.
Adiraj Prabhu?
Yes, Hare Krishna Maharaj. He allowed devotees to do the book distribution in karmic laws.
Yes. Right. Thank you. Yes. Okay. These are all very good points. Yes. All valid points. I think we've covered everything. Anybody got a point you didn't mention so far? No? Okay. Good.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes. Dina Vatsal?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Ananta Pandit.
What?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dan pranam. Prabhupada menggunakan hal-hal material untuk untuk bakti, fasilitas material seperti kemewahan. Prabhupada naik pesawat. Prabhupada juga menggunakan mobil mewah untuk bakti yang tidak pernah dilakukan oleh sannyasi yang lain. Artinya Prabhupada tidak menolak hal-hal material. Biasanya sannyasi sangat jauh dari kemewahan.
Okay. All right.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj dan awat pranam. Setelah Prabhupada menginstruksikan muridnya seperti Srila Bhakti Sarup Damodar Maharaj untuk melanjutkan pendidikan material seperti profesor seperti itu, untuk melanjutkan agar bisa melakukan pengajaran di kalangan university ataupun orang-orang yang berpendidikan secara material. Hare Krishna.
All right. Yes, Prabhupada wanted scientific preaching, qualified people to preach to the professors and the scientists, because in this age, there are no Brahmins. In this age, it's not the Brahmins who lead the society. In this age, everyone is influenced by scientists. The scientist's position is very prominent in society. So Prabhupada certainly wanted preaching to go in the scientific field. And he particularly requested His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj to do the work, to complete his PhD and to preach to all the scientists. And he did it. He was very successful. He did a lot of work preaching to very important scientists, introducing them to Krishna consciousness and putting on scientific conferences. Okay, very nice points. Thank you very much. All right, then discuss their plans. What's
Hare
wrong?
Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, you want to say something? Say quick.
Yes. I wanted to say that Prabhupada accepted devotees from all castes and races to be his disciples.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Prabhupada preached to everyone without discrimination. We'll look more at these points in coming lessons. Okay, discuss their plans for applying points relevant for them from text 2 and 3. So we spoke a little bit how we can apply these points in our own life. You know, maybe we're being over endeavoring, maybe working too hard for material goals. Maybe we're collecting too many things. Devotees also can be guilty of atyahara. We have so many things at home, so many dhotis, so many saris, so many big bags, so many japamala, so many deities, so many pictures. Hardly we can use them. Sometimes we collect too much. So try to keep simple atyahara. Be careful, don't get entangled with atyahara. And concentrate more on hearing and chanting tat tat karma pravartanat, doing that. All right, we'll go ahead. Control. So text 1, controlling the 6 urges. Right? Everyone knows this verse now. We've all learned this verse. And then text 2, the unfavorable activities, because text 1 was describing the urges, and when the urges are not controlled, then you get the unfavorable activities. So then text 3 goes on to describe the favorable activities, what we need to do, what activities, what attitudes we need to cultivate. So I hope you've all memorized these first 3 verses. Right? This is memorization slokas. Now we're going on, text 4, the 6 loving exchanges. Who would like to chant for me? Somebody? Some volunteer who can chant?
Myself, Ganga Prasad.
Okay, go ahead, Prabhu.
Kanai Mar
Ganga
Dadati Prati Grenati Guhyam Akyati Prichati Bhunkte Bojayate Chaivam Sadvidam Priti Lakshanam.
Okay.
Offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad, and offering prasad are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another.
Okay, thank you. So dadati, give charity. You know, that's discussed in the Bhagavad Gita, right? 3 kinds of charity. You can tell me, what are the 3 kinds of charity? Yes? Who? Who? Radha Kishori? Radha Kishori Mataji, 3 kinds of charity.
Please accept my humble obeisances. There are 3 types of charities. One charity is done in the mode of goodness, and the other is in the mode of passion, and the third is in the mode of ignorance.
Yes, right. Can you describe them for me? Would you know a little bit?
Yes, Maharaj, I'll try. So, charity in mode of goodness is given to an appropriate patra, as in to a person who deserves it at an appropriate time, and without any intention of getting anything in return. And charity in mode of passion is given when we expect some charity, or when we expect some fame, or some name in return of that. And mode of goodness, mode of ignorance, charity is given to a person who does not deserve it and who may use it for some wrong activity.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you give an example, charity in the mode of ignorance?
For instance, if I give a beggar 50 rupees and he goes and buys alcohol and drinks it, so, or he takes bidi, like that, so
then you get the karma for that, right?
I get 50% karma.
Only 50%, yeah. At least,
that's what I heard.
Maybe more.
Okay, maybe more. Okay.
50 rupees worth of karma. Okay, thank you, Mataji, very good. Yes. So, dati prakrinati. We give charity, and we also accept charity. Yeah, as brahmanas, a brahmana has allowed to do these things. Someone who is a brahmana, they can give charity, they can also accept charity, they can also worship the deity and teach people to worship the deity. and they can teach the scriptures, and they can also study the scriptures. So it's said sometimes that in the Kali Yuga Brahmanas are expert in only one of the 6 activities. Could you please mute yourself if you have children there in the background? Can you please close your mics, because it's not very good for us to have to hear the sounds of the children when we're trying to give class. Thank you. So Brahmanas can worship the deities and teach to worship the deity. They can study the scripture and teach the scriptures. They can accept charity. They can give charity. What are they good at? In Kali Yuga, good at only one thing: accepting charity. They never give charity, never teach anything, never do. They just simply come and want money. So that was why the caste system fell apart. That's why the Varnashram system failed, because of the degradation in the Brahminical class. Anyway, this is an important principle. Giving charity, you have to know who to give charity to, and accepting charity also. One of the devotees, one senior devotee, a lady, Malati, who was a very senior devotee, very close with Srila Prabhupada, and with her husband, they helped to begin the movement in England. She was one of the 3 householder couples who came to England. So Malati describes how one day they were in India and they were doing Sankirtan. And they were having, I think it was, maybe it was like Rati, yeah, they were doing some Sankirtan through the town. And so some of the merchants came out and they saw the devotees. So some merchant came and wanted to give Malati some cloth. And she went, no, I don't need anything. No, thank you, I don't need it. And Prabhupada got very upset with her and said, no, it's your duty to accept it. It's your duty to accept it. People give you something, you should accept it. Because you're representing Krishna. And so they see you like a Brahmin, they see you like Brahmanas, and the people want to give something, let's say they feel inclined to offer some gift and charity to them. It's the duty of the devotee to accept it, right? And then next is described, Guyam Akyati Prichati. Guyam means confidential. Rajavidya Raja Guyam, Bhagavad Gita. This is confidential knowledge. So Guyam Akyati, explaining confidential topics. Prichati, explains. Or Prichati, inquiring. Prashna, Prichati, right? Guyam Akyati Prichati. So inquiring confidentially and revealing your mind in confidence, explaining these things. So confidential topics mean confidential topics in relation to Krishna and in relation to our practice of Krishna consciousness. So this is something which we will do with the appropriate devotees, devotee who you have that kind of relationship with. You can reveal how you're planning to serve Krishna, or what are the obstacles which are facing you in your Krishna consciousness. You may do like that with the appropriate devotee. And then, bhukte bhojayate chaiva. Eating and feeding, right? Offering foods and accepting foods. So this is, of course, a major part of our Krishna consciousness movement. Sometimes Krishna consciousness is called the kitchen religion. We spend a lot of time in the kitchen cooking and offering, and we're meant to distribute the food. And sometimes we will distribute the food, other times we will eat the food ourselves. So people give us food and we will also give food to others. Important activity in devotional service. So these activities are described Priti Lakshanam, loving symptoms. So very nice to cultivate these six things. We're going to look at some of these things now. Let's see. From the purport. In the previous verse, Srila Rupa Goswami advised one should renounce worldly association and keep company with the devotees. Sangatyagat sato vrite. So the International Society for Krishna Consciousness has been established to facilitate these 6 kinds of loving exchanges between devotees. The purpose of our movement, to facilitate these exchanges. Now we quote a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Some of you may know it, quite well-known verse. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunai Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Kore Udai. Meaning that love of Krishna, Krishna Prema, right? Love of Krishna is eternally established. Nitya Siddha, it's eternally there in the heart of the devotee. It's in the hearts of all the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. And when the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, then this love naturally awakens. Shravanadi, hearing, Shuddha Chitte, then the heart becomes purified. Karihi Udai, we awaken our Krishna consciousness. So we want to apply this principle. We want to understand that Krishna is present in the heart of all living entities, and love of Krishna is there. And if we can awaken that love of Krishna, then it's a great service to Krishna. Therefore, Prabhupada in the purport writes, since Krishna consciousness is inherent in every living entity, everyone should be given a chance to hear about Krishna. Not everybody wants to hear, we know that, but still we give them a chance. We have to give them all a chance. Then describing this principle, Guyam Akyati Prichati, remembering, inquiring confidentially and revealing your mind in confidence. Prabhupada states, one should inquire about the Krishna consciousness movement, open his mind in order to understand the situation of this material world. Thus, the Guyam Akyati Prichati principle can be served. Right? We don't want to talk prajalpa. It's not that all talking is prajalpa, but we have to know what to talk. The topic must be in relation to the Krishna consciousness movement, particularly about the mission of the Krishna consciousness movement and how we can distribute, how we can successfully propagate the mission of the Krishna consciousness movement. So this is the principle. This is what we should be thinking, talking about. Always thinking how to expand Krishna consciousness, how to give it to more people. Another well-known verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This comes when Sanatana Goswami came and surrendered to Lord Krishna. So he asks like this, Keami, Kenyamaya Jari Tapatraya, Iha Nahi Jani, Kema Inahaya. Who am I? Que ami, right? Who am I? Why do the threefold miseries always give me trouble? If I do not know this, how can I be benefited? So this was Sanatana Goswami's question to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, Sanatana Goswami knew these things, but he wanted to hear from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, he came before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and presented this inquiry to him. So this is a Krishna conscious process. It's based on inquiry. You meet the devotees and we inquire and we reveal our minds also. Oh, what happened? Just a minute, something, my computer went back. Oh, yeah. Not going too fast. Okay, here we are.
I think some devotee's mic is on, which is causing some disturbance.
Okay, now we're speaking about the awakening of Krishna consciousness. We understand Krishna consciousness is there in everyone. We want to understand about awakening this Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada explains from text number 4, the life of the Krishna conscious society is nourished by these 6 types of loving exchange among the members. Note that, among the members. Therefore, people must be given the chance to associate with the devotees of ISKCON, because simply by reciprocating in the 6 ways mentioned above, an ordinary man can fully revive his dormant Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada mentions, it said, these 6 exchanges among the members, but then he says, we have to, the devotees have to give the chance to others. We have to give this opportunity to associate to others also. Not that we just only devotees, oh, I'm not going to give prasadam to him, he's not a devotee. Oh, I'm not going to give any gift to that person, he's not a devotee. No, you can win people over very nicely. You give them some care, you show them some love and caring, and people can become very attracted and impressed by Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada states, in the Bhagavad Gita 262, it is stated, Sangat Sanjayate Kama. One's desires and ambitions develop according to the company one keeps. Right? Association, we were speaking about that. Somebody was asking about association. So certainly the company we keep, you see, the company we keep, we want to therefore keep intimate association with devotees who are in Krishna consciousness. And with others, we associate with them as we have to. We have to do what we have to according to the situation. We have to be sociable. We cannot simply reject everybody. We have to know how to live in the world. Prabhupada could be very friendly with people. He could win people over. He was so friendly, so open to them. He'd bring, and talk to them. What is your job? What is your business? Oh, how many children you have? Like, where are you from? And, he would talk to them in general, make friends with them. And then gradually he would bring in Krishna consciousness. Like that. One time in England, there was one man came. He was a world famous motor racing car, a motor racing driver. He would drive in the Formula One, in the Grand Prix. He was very famous, and he came and he met Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would talk to him. So Prabhupada talked to him about when you're driving, that sometimes, you know, you drive very fast, you must feel very close to death. So in this way, you know, the driver admitted that yes, anytime when you're driving top speed, anytime the car could go spinning off, you could be killed. And Prabhupada introduced to him Krishna consciousness, how the moment of death is very crucial. We want to think of Krishna. And then this way, the motor racing driver became very impressed and appreciated Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada was very expert in dealing with all kinds of people. Another time when George Harrison purchased the Bhaktivedanta Manor for us, at that time, Prabhupada, one morning, Prabhupada was walking around the grounds. Well, they had a big grounds, you know, and there was some gardens there. So one man was employed to maintain the gardens. And Prabhupada began to speak to him. The man was the gardener. He was taking care of the lawn, cutting the grass, and looking after the trees and the plants. And so Prabhupada was speaking to him. And the man was saying something about how he had false teeth. And Prabhupada said, oh, what was it? The man said, he said he had false teeth because he liked sweets. So Prabhupada said to the man, he said, yes, he said, I also like sweets. Prabhupada was telling the man, because the man said, I like sweets, I eat sweets, so I've lost all my teeth, they all went rotten because I ate so many sweets. Prabhupada said, well, I also like sweets, but he said, I eat milk sweets. And Prabhupada said, I have all my teeth, I don't have any false teeth. And the man was impressed, you know. It made a very nice relationship. Prabhupada liked that. He was very sweet in dealing and talking with people. So we need to also develop this art because it helps people to come into Krishna consciousness. It's easy to make enemies. It's not so easy to make friends. So we have to learn the art. And it's nice sometimes you give people prasadam, you give some gift to people like that. So association is very important. We develop according to our association. Maybe we come. Huh? Okay. Okay. My computer goes back sometimes. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Dadati. Remember Dadati principle? Giving, right? Dadati pratigrinati. According to Vedic literature, it is enjoined charity should be given to the Brahmanas. Why? Because they are engaged in higher cultivation of spiritual knowledge. Yeah, traditionally, Vedic society, the Brahmana would not work. He didn't go to factory. He didn't keep a job. How did he live? Well, he simply depend on charity. You have Brahman, we read about Sudama Vipra. Sudama Vipra was very poor. He wouldn't even go and beg because he thought, I'm not a Brahmana. He was a Brahmana, but he didn't think of himself as a Brahmana. He was so humble. He thought, I'm not qualified to go and beg from anyone. I'm not a Brahmana. He was a Brahmana, but he didn't go and beg. So some Brahmanas are like that. Madhavendra Puri also, he was a sannyasi, topmost Brahmana. But he also didn't like to go and beg. He wouldn't beg. If someone gave him something, he would accept it. But he wouldn't go and ask people to give him. If somebody offered something to him, then only he would accept. And like that, sometimes, often he would fast, and sometimes he would eat. So anyway, charity should be given to the Brahmana because they're cultivating spiritual knowledge. And they should be so busy reading scriptures and worshipping deities, preaching Krishna consciousness. They don't have time to work in a job. They don't have time to think about going to factory and these things. So, of course, this is an Vedic society. Nowadays, it's not so easy to do like that. According to the 4 divisions of Varna and Ashram, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are especially advised to perform great ceremonial sacrifices and to distribute their accumulated money very liberally. So the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas, they're generally the ones with the money, right? The Kshatriya kings like Maharaj Janak, he would give charity and he would give it without discrimination. He would give it freely, just like the rain would fall everywhere. So he would give charity to everyone. Nanda Maharaj a Vaishya, he had many, many cows. So when he would give charity, generally, he would give cows because he had 9 lakh cows. So you give some charity, you give away cows. So particularly Kali Yuga, no Brahmanas, we have Vaishyas, Kshatriyas practically none, but Vaishyas are there. So the business class, they're encouraged to distribute their accumulated wealth. We see Rupa Goswami, when Rupa Goswami retired, he had a lot of wealth and he divided it in a very nice standard, right? We're going to show that next. This is Prabhupada's principle about dadati, giving in charity. He said, now suppose if there are 100 persons in a society, so 25% student, 25% retired life, and 25% sannyasis, renounced order of life. Now, out of 100 persons, 75% they are engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. Right? The sannyasis, the retired vanaprasthas, and the brahmacharis. So they're all serving the Supreme Lord. The rest, 25% who are grihastas, they are meant for sacrificing 50% of their income for this 75%. Right? This is the whole program of Varnashram Dharma. That is a kind of spiritual communism. Spiritual communism. Prabhupada coined this phrase, spiritual communism. In Prabhupada's time, there was more communism. The whole of the USSR was communist at the time. So Prabhupada spoke about spiritual communism. Communism, of course, the idea is everything belongs to the state. But the idea of spiritual communism is that everything belongs to Krishna. So it's still communism. Everything belongs to Krishna, and everyone has a right to work together cooperatively according to the needs. Everyone should be provided for without discrimination. So similar principles to communism, but on a spiritual platform. So Prabhupada is explaining here, this is spiritual communism, that the people who are making all the money, hopefully, but I don't know, nowadays, of course, very difficult for people to make money with lockdowns everywhere and the way the economy is at this time, become very difficult for people to make money. But ideally, the people who make a lot of money, they should give 50% of their income to support the sannyasis and to support the vanaprasthas, the retired, and to support the brahmacharis. Of course, these sannyasis and vanaprasthas and brahmacharis, they should live very simply. They should not have a lot of material demands. Not like, you know, or some brahmachari comes up to one of the grihastas and said, you know, I need a hand phone. Can you get me a hand phone? And the grihasta thinks, oh, maybe I get this brahmachari a hand phone. And you think the brahmachari is going to use it for preaching, but the brahmachari may use it to watch movies or listen to mundane music or something. He may not use it entirely for Krishna consciousness. So that's very wrong. This is one of the problems which come. Sometimes, you know, we're more greedy than what we actually need. So we have to be very careful to try to minimize the demands. We shouldn't put a great stress on the grihastas that you have to support. We need this, we need that. You know, grihastas have to pay, and the grihastas themselves are struggling. No, they can. The grihastas are also going to be limited in what they can do. So it's the duty of the brahmacharis and sannyasis and vanaprasthas also to live very simply and to minimize the bodily demands, because they understand they're being supported by the mercy of the grihastas. This is from Prabhupada's lecture on Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada continues, for spiritual advancement of a society, the whole social order is so arranged that 75% of the people, they are engaged in the matter of spiritual advancement of knowledge. And 25% of the population, those who are earning, those who in family life, those who have got factories, business, and so many things, they should sacrifice 50% of their income for these 75% persons who are engaged in spiritual emancipation. All right? So this was Prabhupada's explanation of how society should be organized. Brahmacharis, grihastas, vanaprasthas also can be very demanding. You know, they can say, oh, I need to renovate my house, I need the new car, and like this, you know. They're retired, but still they're thinking, they have so many bodily demands, and they're thinking about making their home more comfortable. They're not thinking about the vairagya. They're not thinking about doing tapasya, which is what they should be thinking. One who is actually retired means you give up the material plans. You're not interested in developing yourself materially because you've retired. Retired from the material means to take up spiritual work. We don't stop everything. You don't do nothing. Sometimes people retire and they do nothing, simply sit and watch television and play cards and gamble and waste their time, do nothing with their life. But retirement is meant for taking up spiritual duties, for being busy in the practice of Krishna consciousness, worshipping the deities. And also in retired life, people should go and visit the holy places, go and stay in the holy places and travel to holy places. That's also part of the duty of the vanaprasthas. They go and visit the holy places and get purified, get detached from the home. Don't just sit at home and wait for death to come. but prepare for death by becoming absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So this is the Dadati principle. We want to accept charity. We should be cautious not to ask more than what we actually need, but minimizing the maintenance. Oh, what's the time? We still have half an hour. All right. Well, just a bit more here on the Dadati principle. From Srimad Bhagavatam purport, in the brahmachari life, the training is sufficiently imparted so that one may understand that the world as property belongs to the Supreme Lord. No one therefore can claim to be the proprietor of anything in the world. Therefore, in the life of a householder, which is a sort of license for sex enjoyment, one must give in charity for the service of the Lord. Everyone's energy is generated or borrowed from the reservoir of energy of the Lord. Therefore, the resultant actions of such energy must be given to the Lord in the shape of transcendental loving service for Him. So brahmachari life is a training. Of course, nowadays people are not trained as brahmachari. They would laugh at the thought of brahmachari. They're trained the other way. They're trained to be just hedonistic. They think life is just meant for sense gratification. But brahmachari life is the best way to begin. Young men trained as brahmacharis, then they'll go on to make good householders. If a man is not trained as a brahmachari, it will be very difficult for him to be peaceful and to be happy in family life. So brahmachari training is very essential for young men. Not that they have to remain brahmacharis their whole life. Some men may do. Some men may go on from brahmachari to become sannyas. But generally, from brahmachari life, one will go on to become married, to become a grihastha. So the men are trained properly. The young men are trained properly. Then they make good. They make a good husband, and they're good in family success. Can produce good children, Krishna conscious children, which are all very important. So Prabhupada is making the point in the purport here that everything belongs to the Lord, and the energy which we get from the Lord should be returned in the shape of service for the Lord. And that service for the Lord is the duty of all ashrams. The Grihastha ashram also, they have a duty to serve the Lord. Another purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, in this fallen age of quarrel and dissension, if only the leading and wealthy persons of society agree to spend 50% of their income in the service of the Lord, as it is taught by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is absolute certainty of converting this hell of pandemonium to the transcendental abode of the Lord. So we're fortunate, we do see some wealthy people coming to the Krishna consciousness movement and dedicating a major portion of their income for the service of Lord Krishna. Recently, of course, I think you all know how Ambarish Prabhu from the Ford Motor Company, who is a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he contributed something like $30 million to the construction of the temple, the TOVP, the temple in Mayapur here, which is going on. So that was certainly extremely generous on his part. And even he has two daughters and his own children also. They each one donated $1 million. And a number of other men have also shown wonderful examples. I know there's one devotee in Delhi, New Delhi, who's a disciple of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami, Gopal Krishna Goswami's disciple. And he's a successful businessman, and he's the major funder behind the temple construction which is going on in Delhi. A number of temples have been coming up there in Delhi, because Delhi is a huge city and we need temples. People can't be moving around the whole city can't just have one temple. Prabhupada, even in Prabhupada's time, he said you need a temple in every village in Delhi. And there were something like 20 or more villages in Delhi. So different suburbs, they're trying to put temples. Like we have a big temple which was supposed to open this year, 2020, in Rohini, in the subdivision called Rohini there in New Delhi. Rohini is like one of the biggest subdivision housing divisions in Asia. A huge area. So a big temple was meant to open this year. Of course, it's delayed because of the COVID-19. So the main funding comes from disciples of Gopal Krishna Goswami. They're very successful businessmen and they contribute to the service of Krishna. So this is wonderful examples. And this is how it should be. Wealthy, leading persons, they have money, they're happy to use it in the service of Krishna. We saw in Srila Prabhupada's time, George Harrison. At that time, in the 1970s, he was one of the most famous people on the planet. You know, a very world famous person. And he was interested in Krishna consciousness. And he'd made friends with, the devotees had made friendship with him. And first of all, he bought marble for the temple there, in the first temple which opened in London, in Bury Place. He paid for the marble, and he went with the devotees to purchase it. And then later on, then he paid for the printing, the first printing of the Krishna book. Prabhupada he had no money to print the Krishna book. When George Harrison paid for it, the first printing. And then later on, he purchased the Bhaktivedanta Manor, which was a big house with a big estate with land, wonderful property just in the outskirts of London. So George Harrison used his wealth also for the service of Krishna. And of course, he used his musical talents also for the service of Krishna, to do things like making the Govinda record and Hare Krishna mantra music. Okay, so this is the Dati principle, giving for Krishna. When everyone is taught to sacrifice 50% of his accumulated gold for the Lord's service, certainly austerity, cleanliness, and mercy automatically ensue. And thus, the lost three legs of the personality of religion are automatically established. So, Prabhupada, this is from Srimad Bhagavatam in relation to the personality of Kali. Personality of Kali was told he could reside wherever there are irreligious activities going on. But he said, well, then there's nowhere in the kingdom of Maharaj Parikshit. I won't have anywhere to reside. So then Maharaj Parikshit gave concession that you can reside wherever there is hoarding of gold. Because wherever there is hoarding of gold, then there will automatically come intoxication, gambling, meat eating, and illicit sex. The irreligious activities will come because of hoarding of gold. It has that effect. accumulating more wealth than necessary leads to these kind of activities. So have to be very cautious about keeping wealth. And the best thing is to use it for the service of Krishna. So the question is asked, what is our biggest gift? What do we have to give to people? You may say, well, we give books, right? But here we see Prabhupada says, contributing or distributing the holy name of the Lord is a sublime example of contributing or giving charity, the Dadati principle, right? And here you see the devotees. It's an old picture, but Sankirtan, devotees in Mexico, I think it is, and they're chanting like this. This is our charity, giving the holy name. And that's a major contribution to give people that, to give them the holy name, let them hear the chanting. We'll put here, this is a letter from Srila Prabhupada, and you can see it's sent to all ISKCON temple presidents. It's a very important letter. I'll read it through. Everyone can listen. Now you must arrange in each temple, there must be sufficient stock of prasadam for distribution. You can keep first-class cooks, 2 or 3, and they should be always engaged. Whenever any guest comes, he must get prasad. This arrangement must be made that the cooks prepare 10, 20 servings at a time of puris and sabji, and you can add halava and pakoras, and the visitors must be supplied immediately. Whenever a gentleman comes, he must be served. As the 20 servings are being distributed, immediately the cooks prepare another 20 servings and store it. At the end of the day, if no one comes, our own men will take, so there is no loss. You cannot say it is finished, it is not cooked yet, there is no supply for cooking, etc. This must be enforced rigidly. The temple is managed by Srimati Radharani, Lakshmi Ji. So why should there be want? Our philosophy is, if anyone comes, let him take prasad, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Everything is being supplied by Krishna. Krishna is not poor, so why should we deny them? This should be done at any cost. There is no difficulty. If it simply requires nice management. At the end of the day, you may sell or give away. If we believe that Krishna is providing and maintaining everyone, then why should we be misers? This means losing faith in Krishna and thinking that we are the doers and suppliers. We are confident Krishna will supply. Let the whole world come, we can feed them. So please do this nicely. Begin at once. Hope this makes you all in good health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, 19th of January, 1977. So Srila Prabhupada's desire, we must distribute prasadam at the temple. This is a Prabhupada Leela. Prabhupada Upendra is narrated by a devotee called Upendra. He was Prabhupada's personal servant. So he describes what happened, how when he got initiation from Prabhupada, he wanted to give a present to Prabhupada. So he gave Prabhupada, he had a baby blanket and a beach towel. And somehow he thought these would be nice things to give to Prabhupada. So he gave them to Prabhupada, And Prabhupada looked at these things and said, these things are useless. And he just put them down on the floor. So Pandra said, I was hurt, but I didn't say anything. And so anyway, he said, after a while he left. And then he said, the next day, I went to see Swamiji and he saw that the beach towel and the baby blanket were on the floor like rugs, so that the guests could come and they could sit down on them. So in this way, he said, I felt satisfied. I had found something useful for my offering. Prabhupada found some use for it. Okay, so when everyone is taught to sacrifice 50% of his accumulated gold for the Lord's service, certainly austerity, cleanliness, mercy ensue. The three legs of the personality of religion are automatically established. So dadati, giving charity, and pratigrinati, accepting. So Prabhupada said, unless one is very advanced, he is unable to utilize everyone's contribution to further the Krishna consciousness movement. We have to be very careful about accepting things. Very careful, one should very carefully avoid associating with both the Sahajas, who are sometimes known as Vaishnavas, and the non-Vaishnavas or Avaishnavas. So avoiding this kind of association, 6 kinds of association. Okay. Their association changes the transcendental devotional service of Lord Krishna into sense gratification. And when sense gratification enters the mind of a devotee, he is contaminated. Materialistic person who aspires after sense gratification cannot properly think of Krishna. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Very important. We want to be able to think of Krishna. But if we become contaminated through bad association, through too much materialistic atmosphere, then certainly it will be difficult to think of Krishna. Money is undoubtedly coming in great quantities, but we should not be attached to this money for sense gratification. Every cent should be spent for spreading Krishna consciousness movement, not for sense gratification. There is danger for a preacher when he receives great quantities of money, for as soon as he spends even a single cent of the collection for his personal sense gratification, he becomes a fallen victim. So this is the challenge facing preachers. Somebody may go out representing the Krishna consciousness movement and he may receive money, but he should not think that that money belongs to him. Rather, that money belongs to the Krishna consciousness movement, and it must be used for the service of the Krishna consciousness movement. And Prabhupada is making the point, if we spend even a single cent for our own sense gratification, then we become fallen. So very important. It's a very risky thing to accept charity. We must understand that we're accepted on behalf of Krishna, on behalf of the Krishna consciousness movement, and not for our own self. It's very important. So we quote this famous saying, which Prabhupada's own spiritual master said to him, if you ever get money, print books. And Prabhupada encouraged temples to do like that when the temple got some money, they should use half the money, 50%, to print books, or purchase books rather, from the BBT. He liked the temples to keep their money in books. If the temple has a lot of money, then buy books from the BBT and keep books in the temple. And if you keep books in the temple, then the devotees will go out and preach and they can distribute books. But if you don't have any books and you just sit around and eat, that's not good. Temple is a place for going out preaching. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati didn't like temples to keep money. He would come and spend it. He would put on a festival, or he would he would build a diorama exhibition, pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, like that. Rather than keeping money in the bank, use it for the service of Krishna. Another statement, Maya's most attractive feature is women and money. We Krishna conscious men have to deal with women and money in the course of preaching work. And the only prophylactic measure to save us is not to accept them for our sense gratification. Prophylactic measure, prophylactic that will protect us from being contaminated, is not to accept them, not to accept money for our sense gratification. Then we shall remain strong enough. Materialistic people take everything for sense gratification, and Krishna conscious people take everything for Krishna's satisfaction. There is no fault in the thing as it is, namely money and women, but it becomes faulty by improper use. The improper use is to accept them for sense gratification. Prabhupada described that in a letter to his disciple, Gargamuni Prabhu. So we have to understand how to use everything properly. Take some intelligence. So we ask you, how are we doing? How much time? 7 minutes. Okay. So, stating from the purport of text 4, the life of the Krishna conscious society is nourished by these 6 types of loving exchanges among the members. We would like to know, we'd like to hear from you now. I've been talking a lot. We'd like to know about you. How successful has ISKCON been in facilitating these 6 loving exchanges? How successful have you been in your own ISKCON center, in your own ISKCON preaching field? How successful have you been in facilitating these kind of loving exchanges? So we open it up to you. Let's hear from you. We have a few minutes. We'll continue with this in the next class tomorrow also. But I'd like to hear a little bit now. Priya Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. By distributing Krishna Prasadam and doing food for life.
Can you tell me about it?
Okay, on Sundays, we usually have the Sunday festivals. We cook prasadam, and congregational devotees and outsiders also, they are welcomed. They come and visit us in the temple. And other days, in the weekdays, we cook and take food prasadam outside, food for life, in schools, on the streets, marketplaces.
Every day? Every day?
Yes, every day. Even now there is COVID, we are still doing the same, Maharaj.
How many people do you feed? How many people can you feed?
Per day we usually feed 2,000, but now we have scaled it down because there's so many cases here in Kenya. And now we are feeding around 500 only.
500 people a day, huh?
Yes, Maharaj.
What do you feed them, ugali?
No ugali nowadays. We are feeding them with rice and beans, and sometimes we also cook rotis also and give them. And
So
dal, yeah.
so the food is appreciated, huh? People line up to get it, is it?
Yeah, they like it actually. Even we are featured in a documentary that was being done by the Ministry of Health, and the president was invited, and he saw how Hare Krishnas were giving back to the society. We were featured on the national TV also.
You go into the city and you just stand in one place and people come and get the food, or you move around and distribute it?
No, we have different locations or centers, so people know where we are at different days. So they come to us. When they come, we chant Hare Krishna together before we feed them.
On different days, you go to different places, huh?
Yes, different places, not one place.
But one day, one place.
Yeah, one day, one place.
Okay.
We rotate.
Okay. That's very good. 500 people a day could feed so many people. Who supports it? The congregation are providing, huh?
We have congregation who are giving donations. Also, we also have a big farm, 30-acre farm, which provides also. We get food supply from there. And also we have other Hindu communities also, they give donations and other well wishes as well.
You have your own farm producing food?
Yeah, we have a Nairobi farm nowadays.
What do you grow?
We grow all kinds of crops, all kinds of vegetables, and we have cows as well.
Oh, wonderful. Oh. Okay, very nice to hear that so much food distribution, prasadam distribution is going on in Nairobi.
Yes, Maharaj, by your mercy.
But you also have lockdown there, is it?
No, we don't have lockdown now, but we have the curfew, night curfew from 9 p.m. up to 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Yeah, 3 exactly, 3 a.m.
Because you have some COVID there, is it?
Yeah, COVID now is taking toll now here. So we are cautious. And also we have strict measures in the temple as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Very nice. Anybody else like to volunteer here? Oh. Dilip Kuntia. Dilip Kuntia.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes,
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dandavat Pranam.
Yes. What are you doing?
Maharaj, here in Bhubaneswar, in this lockdown time, the temples are almost closed, and the government has not yet allowed the temples to open. But in our youth hostels here in Bhubaneswar, we are focusing on preaching to youth. And every Sunday, there are around 8 to 9 youth hostels over here. And every Sunday, we make programs for youth, in which around 20 to 30 youth come to every hostels, and we give them prasadam, and we discuss certain basic principles of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and try to nourish their Krishna consciousness and give some basic ideas of Krishna consciousness next to them. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. So youth preaching going on in Bhubaneswar. Cultivating the youth, very important. The youth preaching, the children and the youth, very important preaching. Yes, someone else? Roho Agarwal.
Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes,
I'm again from Bhubaneswar itself, and here we have this Sunday feast programs where youth used to come. Apart from that, what usually we see that there are temple devotees who usually visit our base, and we have special dedicated guest rooms for them as well, where we ourselves can go, can talk with them confidentially. We can share our hearts and can discuss matters which are really important for our Krishna consciousness. Again, when there are some festivals, if someone's special day, some birthdays or any other festival, all of us get together, we come and we exchange sweet words, we glorify them, and then there are kirtans and other things which really helps us gaining interest in Krishna consciousness. as these are the symptoms of love that we really get from the devotees of temples from other place devotees who are staying over here, and this is how it goes on in Bhubaneswar right now because of lockdown.
Okay. And is preaching also going on all over Orissa? Is that
Yes, Maharaj. It's been going all over Odisha. There are different very districts and all where we are approaching people and they are taking it seriously. They are appreciating our efforts. They are appreciating the Mahamantras.
Okay.
We again have plans of village preaching right now. We are planning to do it as well within Odisha.
Because Jagannath Puri has been quite badly affected, right? A lot of people died even there from COVID-19.
Yes, Maharaj, it is a situation. That's the reason it's not yet sure when the Jagannath Puri is opening because there are a lot of complications over there.
But we have devotees there in Puri working, doing some program, distribution, prasadam.
Yes, Maharaj. Prasadam distribution is continuously going on.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Okay, so we'll stop here now and we'll continue tomorrow night. We'd like to ask everyone, you can please think more about these loving exchanges and think about how successful, or maybe you'd like to talk more about, dissatisfaction, things maybe you'd like to see us do better, where we can improve. You can maybe talk more about the areas which need to be developed, how we're not fulfilling Prabhupada's desires. What areas can we do more? So both sides are there, positive, negative. I'd like to hear from you tomorrow when we continue the class tomorrow evening, but time is up now. So we'll meet tomorrow night. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hi, thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Jai Hari Bol.
Jai.
Krishna.
Siap, Prabu. Siap. Nggih. Terima kasih, Prabu. Nggih, siap. Hare Krishna. Sudah, Prabu. Nggih, besok.